Transmutation by George Washington Carey. Part 2, Kundalini and the Philosopher's Stone. In the Kundalini experience, a bolt of electromagnetic energy bursts into an individual's lower spine and starts a process which is biological and causes a stream of reproductive secretion to flow up through the spinal cord into the brain. As stated, this secretion streams up the central canal, the spinal cord, as if a powerful suction were applied from the head to the nerve lining at the space below the navel and the plexus located between the reproductive organs and the anus. This activity primarily involves the brain, the nervous system, and the reproductive system. This upward flow of radiant energy is composed of fine biochemical reproductive seeds that enter the brain and the nerve centers of all the vital organs and appear in the mind's eye as an internal luminosity. Physically, it is felt as an extremely pleasurable sensation that might be associated with the erotic flow of reproductive energy. The Secret of the Golden Flower, an ancient Chinese book of life, leaves no doubt that the author intends to convey an inward and upward flow of reproductive energy when he attempts to describe, quote, the elixir of life, end quote. And he writes, quote, the power of the kidneys is under the water sign. When the sexual instincts are stirred, it runs downward. It is directed outward and creates children. If in the moment of release or orgasm, it is not allowed to flow outward, but is led back by the force of thought so that it penetrates the crucible of the creative and refreshes the heart and the body and nourishes them, this is also the backward flowing method, end quote. Therefore it is said, quote, the meaning of the elixir of life depends on the backward flowing method, end quote. This is called Urdhva Ritas in Sanskrit by yoga adepts. If the backward flowing method is fully explained and understood correctly, then the mechanical means of obtaining it must be carefully studied. To the best of my knowledge, nobody has yet described the method clearly, and therefore even the term backward flowing method might be confusing. We must keep this under consideration as we go along. Alchemy is the science of stages. It is the path concerned with the greater mystery of mankind. I'd like just to take a pause here and state that I do not believe, and this is just my opinion, but I do not believe that Mr. Carey is trying to convey his agreeance that you should use that backward flowing method. I know personally I say that I believe it's very dangerous to do that, but I'm not about to cut the portion out of the book and not put it down. So I do believe that his intention is to say that you should not practice that, but you should keep that in mind as you're furthering your alchemical studies. Alchemists have always concealed their enormous secret in order to prevent the spiritually unprepared from abusing the power that this secret can confer. They might attempt to, quote, take heaven by storm, end quote, so to say, and in the process be shattered by the high-frequency energies that can be set into motion. Man is born male and female. His body is the universal womb, and the gateway is also through his body. He has to be able to place the, quote, seed, end quote, in his own, quote, vessel, end quote, or in the, quote, dark earth, end quote, with his own hands. You should know precisely what it is in the body that is called, quote, dark earth, end quote. Unless you know what a vessel is, you could waste 10 lifetimes of intense study and still not lay hold of the secret. Many alchemists labored in their laboratories for years without success, never realizing that the process and what was meant by, quote, the vessel, end quote. The seed that is man's sperm has a dual function. One is to make children and the other is to regenerate the body. Heaven should be understood as being located within the human body. The gateway is the body. The Philosopher's stone is buried in that body. In mythology, we learn that the gods were afraid of the mind of man and decided to hide the stone in a secret place where he could never find it. They knew that man was highly intelligent and that through science he would eventually conquer nature. And after much deliberation, therefore, they decided no place on earth was a safe hiding place for the stone if they wanted to keep it from man. Therefore, they decided to hide it in his own body, where he would never think to look for it. To make it even more difficult to find the stone, any language that might describe the hiding place was forbidden and made socially unacceptable. So, man traveled the earth, looking for the treasure. He climbed the Himalayan mountains. He visited India, Egypt, even the Holy Land. I believe that they're alluding to all of the world religions. He studied, he meditated, and prayed, and yet in all that time, he never found the stone, because that priceless treasure was safely secured within his own body. Even if he became somewhat aware of it, he still could not possess it, because the work of his hand is required to begin the process of transformation, or we could say, of greatly accelerating the work of nature. He had to use his own hands, because nature has no hands. There is one species of man yet to appear on earth, and that man is known to the initiates as Melchizedek. He is the man all religions pray for, the one person whom can obtain, quote, the secret, end quote, on his own. In other words, man can transcend death and transform his body into a state where it will be self-sufficient and halt the deterioration of the physical organs, cells, and the flesh. The body then becomes self-generating. It has a living nucleus, or a stone, which becomes just like a modern nuclear power station, but even more powerful than any energy-generating plant yet devised. Sulfur, mercury, and everlasting golden water are symbols that stand for substances that are located within the human body. We will touch upon these all-important elements as we proceed further. End of Part 2, Transmutation, by George Washington Carey. The PDF is listed in the description box below. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for all notifications. Like and share with your friends and family in your own social media. Watch the playlist for Part 3 coming soon. Love yourselves and love each other unconditionally.